Magic is nearly forgotten. The council is seemingly rotten. Won't stop till they got her. Let's talk about the magician's daughter.
Hello! Welcome to Literarily Wasted. This is our May book discussion for The Magician's Daughter. Benny's here playing the maracas. That's relevant. But we have, as you can see, we have two very special guest hosts tonight. We have Bobby. What's up, Bobby?
Hi, guys. How are you doing?
And then here in the studio, we've got Leanne.
Yay!
And also we have Benny, who just turned one. Say hello.
Yay! Oh my goodness.
He's very happy. He's very happy to be a 1-year-old. So there we go. Hey, let's see. Should we do the thing? Do we need to do the thing?
Someone should do
some
version
thing.
of a thing, and it's not me.
Leanne was talking about her fantastic singing voice earlier. We'll spare her from the.
We don't need to scare everyone away.
I guess I'll do it.
Yeah, you should do it.
Bendy, do you want to do it? You want to do the song?
You've been practicing singing. He just wants to
Or
eat
he's
it.
trying to eat it.
It's food, yes.
Okay, let's see who's here. Hi, Tammy and Sean and Jennifer and Stacy and Dan and Rachel and Brenda. Hi, Brandy and Victoria and Willa and Judy and Kristen and Randall and Emily and Giggles and Tim and Natalie and Kristen and Brandy and Sean and Emily and Natalie and Sean and taking my headphones and Victoria and Giggles and Stacy and Judy and Brandy and Kristen and Bethany and Jeff and Rachel and oh no, I lost my place. Judy, Dan, Emily, I've said all your names. Kira's here. And Brandy and Dan. Hooray.
Yay!
Yay. All right.
Yay.
Benny's going to go spend
Benny's-
some time with Poppy. The disembodied hands reach into the frame and whisk the baby away.
That's the kind of magic that has been very helpful.
No, I'm not that creative. Next time, perhaps. But
That's an
welcome.
excellent intro.
And if Victoria says, I haven't been here in a while, like the updates with the music. Yeah, we do what we can.
That's all Adam.
No, it's not. It's
It's Adam and AI.
Adam and the scary computers.
But you write the lyrics, don't you?
I did write the lyrics, but the scary computers made the music, and the computers are scary.
That's true.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about The Magician's Daughter by
Hooray.
H.G. Parry. I guess we'll just start with the usual. In a broad, general terms, what did y'all think of this? We'll start with you, Bobby.
I really liked it. Honestly, I thought it was just a wonderful, cozy fantasy. So it was very much up my alley. So
Nice.
it was very relaxing.
What about you, Leanne?
I agree that it was a cozy fantasy. I did like it. There were a couple things that bugged me, but overall, I liked it. I do appreciate that the main character wasn't in like a love triangle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love triangles.
I kept expecting her and Rowan to have some sort of something, but I was really, really
thank
happy they didn't go there.
Yeah,
Which it didn't.
Yeah.
we
Thankfully.
didn't.
What did you think, Christy?
I had two really different experiences with this book, I don't know. It was weird. So when I was reading it on the ebook, it was way too slow for me and I kept almost falling asleep and nothing was happening. But then when I would listen to the audiobook, I love the narrator and I guess her voice and the way that she pronounced the Irish accents of Rowan and Biddy was so charming. And I was really able to get into the cozy part of it. Just like it was a delight to listen to. But I did not enjoy reading it on the ebook. So and I don't know why it was such a different experience. And I've never had that experience with a book before. So the parts that I listened to were great and just pleasant, and then the parts that I read were less so.
I liked it. I thought it was, like Bobby said, I thought it was cozy. It was easy to read, which I appreciate. Since I did read 50% of the book today.
If it makes you feel better, I read 50% of it on Monday.
Nice.
I started it then.
Tammy finished 25 minutes ago. But
Yes.
because I had to, Benny's happy, because I had to cram it. Like, I think the fact that it was an easy to read helped me cram it. I also had some issues with this book. There are some people that I agree with, even though I liked it. People are saying it was kind of a meh book. It was slow to go, which we can get into. But I did find that thankfully it picked up, and then I was kind of into it, and then it really slowed down again. but we can get into all that. Also read 12 to 80% in the last 36 hours. Dang, Kelly. This was. feel like we spent way too much time circling back to that same dungeon. It was like one of those Zelda games that you keep having to backtrack.
Yeah. It's like, go to a different location, please. My goodness.
But let's talk about what people are saying about the pacing. What did y'all think about that? Some people are saying that's really slow to start.
I thought the pacing was actually pretty fast for me, considering how Uriah Heep started, and I felt like that one was quite a bit slower. So in comparison, I felt that this one was really fast for her, but and it could be just because I like the genre in general, so I identify with the main character. So maybe it's just like personal taste here, but I thought it went pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would agree that, like, once I thought that it started slow, and then once we got into it, then I could feel like, even though there were like chapters that were like 50 minutes long and like 35 minutes long, because I was reading it on the Kindle and it tells you, which is really not a great thing to see when you get to a new chapter, like 50 minutes chat, and you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I thought the pacing was kind of all over the place. I thought that was a little bit slow at first, and there was a lot of talky exposition, and then we got into it.
That's funny, because I thought the beginning I really enjoyed, because I enjoyed the world building and the setup of everything, and then like I felt like it just never picked up, and I needed it to pick up.
What did you think, Leanne?
I liked it overall. I did not read Uriah Heep, so I don't have anything to compare it to. It was, I agree with it. There wasn't really any world building. It just, of course it was our world, and they explained the magic process a bit, but
yeah, they didn't quite get into that.
Yeah,
the rules of magic were almost there.
Yeah.
It's like
but I think
It's like we didn't explain that.
Yeah, but it made sense based on the perspective that we got, which was Biddy's perspective. She can't use magic at this point. And like, I also think a major theme was, let's not actually tell Biddy anything. So I thought it made sense that we didn't know either.
That's true. I was very Biddy centric. Jeff says, was anyone super excited to get reading time on this book? Like, you wanted to get home from work and just read? That's a sign of a special book. I did not have that feeling here. And then
let's put it this way. Last night, I read till about 11 o'clock, and I had 50 pages or so left. Normally, that would be a absolutely have to finish it. I can just go ahead and get it done. I didn't feel that with this book. I was like, well, I could just wait till tomorrow and I can read it, at lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I didn't have that feeling, but again, when I would listen to it the audiobook, like in the car or something, I found myself smiling a lot, just because it was so like nice to listen to.
Yeah.
Just like Benny's nice to listen to right now.
Not right now.
Curious that Sin disappeared early threw me for. What were you saying, Bobby?
Oh, I was going to say, like I finished like a good chunk of that book in like one night, so I stayed up till like 4 a.m. So it was like I really enjoyed it. At least like the last 60 some pages, anyway.
So let's talk about like what Christy mentioned about it being Biddy's story, because I think on oh, there he goes screaming. Oh, when he heats up his bottle, he goes crazy. Let's talk about being Biddy centric, because I think there was a lot of discourse in Discord about. I think one of the biggest complaints that I read of the people were saying in Discord was that a lot of the action happened off screen. A lot of the fun, exciting stuff happened, and Biddy was just kind of like maybe listening or just hearing about it later. She was able to see stuff through
We got
dreams.
told a lot. We didn't get to see a lot.
And it being Biddy centric, also her being an outsider to this world of magic, and really truly, like, for the most part, not being let in until much later into the story. There was Discord and Discord, but not much Discord.
That kind of went on with us because we're not magical.
Yeah.
So, kind of that would be our perspective as well.
Did anybody have like issues with that? Like, because I wanted to talk about like the action happening off screen and stuff.
Well, it's like, what exactly are we missing? Because I know we're missing like a lot of torture,
Which I was fine with missing.
I'm fine with.
Yeah, I'm fine with missing the torture.
That would totally kill the cozy vibe if like we saw that part. But it's just like, what action are we missing exactly? Because I know it's like we're missing like maybe some of Ronan antics, like instilling magic, and like what is he using it for? So maybe some of that would have been great. But it's like I really don't care what the council's doing. It's just like they're kind of like, we're hogging the magic for whatever reason, So
yeah. Well, and on Discord, Caitlin said more than one point of view would have been great for world building, but it does give you the memories of other characters. And she thought that was a cool and clever way to give you more world building and insight into the other characters. And I did really appreciate the memories, and I thought it was a good way for us to learn more about like relationships and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But I really would have loved more point of views. I think that would have been helpful.
I would have loved a Hutchincroft point of view.
Oh my gosh.
I loved Hutch. He was my favorite character.
He was so cute.
I think he was everybody's favorite character.
Hutch was the ultimate voice of reason in this story.
Yes.
Which is interesting because he, for a lot of the time, he didn't really have a voice.
But someone else mentioned, let me find it. Where was it? Emily on Facebook said, Hutchincroft was my favorite character by far in the book. In the moments when Biddy couldn't audibly hear him, the depiction of his rabbit body language to communicate was great. Periscoping, ear flicking, growling, thumping, nudging, imploring, and spectacularly skeptical side-eyeing. Which, I mean, so he wasn't able to speak to her, but he absolutely communicated with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she even said, like, later in the end, like, she understood what he was getting at most of the time.
It's like I always had Biddy's side.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's like when he was human, like that was the only way they could actually like talk to each other. But it was so great that she just knew him so well that she knew like every like slight movement of the ear, like what that meant when he was in pain. So I really enjoyed her relationship with Hutchincroft, and the fact that later on in the story where they talk about the Puka talks about her name, and he goes, Biddy Hutchincroft O'Connell. I was like, yes, and I was like, Hutchins, yeah. Because I'm like, we got to respect our rabbit fathers too. Okay, he raised her just as much, if not more.
Oh, absolutely.
Bunny daddies.
Yes.
Dan says, I'm fine with things that happen off screen. Some of the most important things in Lord of the Rings are relayed to us secondhand by characters, but that's kind of all this was, talking about the world instead of showing us the world. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that to a point. Biddy, I think probably one of my biggest issues with this book was that it kind of relied too heavily on a TV and movie trope that I absolutely hate, which is like, I can't tell you right now, I'll tell you later. Like, if we don't have time to talk about it now, I'll tell you later. Or like Rowan's whole secret keeping and not telling her things was, I think even when we got to the end, I'm like, did you have to keep that from her? Like, I don't understand.
also,
why-
like,
I wasn't quite sure that would needed to be kept a secret. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I found you at an orphanage. You could just like, omit some parts, but it's like you don't have to like,
but she's been so sheltered her entire life. And he's like, you know what? You should definitely risk your life, but I'm not going to give you any warning about anything. You're just going to throw you in and see what happens. Good luck.
Yeah, and so, but he, Rowan came across to me at the beginning like a not so likable. Like, I just felt like he seemed like a little bit gaslighty, a little bit like,
I mean, Biddy absolutely started realizing that too, though, which I really appreciated.
which is part of the character
Yeah.
development, part of all that. But yeah, I don't know. It's like, and then we did have all of these moments, like Kelly was saying, where like I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll tell you, and then 50 pages later, we understand something more about this. I think I appreciate the concept of the like basically onion layers, that because Biddy is here in this mindset, and she's so like convinced that this is the world, and she's so excited about seeing the world, and then we peel away and we get some twists and turns in the story, a little bit about her origin and about Rowan's role in the magic in her heart and all that stuff. And I appreciated the kind of the peeling away of those on layers. Could it have been paced better? Probably. Did we need as much wordiness? But yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that.
And I think it's just like the format of just like, first person point of view, or not really first person, because like I'm pretty sure they speak in third person, but yeah, because it uses she, but like just like one character's point of view versus like multiple characters' point of view, because it does stick with like what would she know about magic as a person who can't use it. So, and being Ronan is like the character that he is, it's just like he's not going to go into too much detail explaining things before he turns into a bird and flies off again. So it was more focused on like the whimsy of like, oh yeah, there's magic in the world. It's just we're not going to take too much time explaining what it is, because that will like kind of take away from it, I guess.
No, it says how it started to look like Rowan was a baddie, and I was like, oh, poor sweet child, you're wrong. But it was much more complicated than that. Yeah, I did like the that it wasn't like you're good, you're evil, you're good, you're evil. Although the evil people were straight evil.
Yeah,
I wish.
Like,
we had the shades of gray with Rowan and Morgaine, but with Vaughn was just
Vaughn and Storm.
Like legit, just
Just like the necromancer. Yeah, it's obviously the bad guy. It's just like, okay, he uses bones.
We had to take shades of gray with Storm too.
Were there shades of gray with Storm? Because like, sure, we were told that him and Rowan used to be really good friends, and that's, I felt like, the only shade of gray we got.
Well,
the rest, he was just pure evil.
We
and
did, yeah,
that's
true. That's true. I mean, there were moments where Biddy said like, I could sympathize with him if I didn't hate him so much.
Oh, you know what drove me crazy? And I guess this just isn't how magic works in this world, but like, she had the Ravenstone the whole time, and there were moments where she almost connected with Storm, and I really wanted her to let him try it again. Like, couldn't the Ravenstone just let him transform back?
Like, if he could just conquer like the Raven spirit, like,
yeah.
But and it's just like, if he hasn't done it in 75 years, would he be able to do it now? I mean,
yeah. Well, and
he was still pretty magic. He still did some magic things.
He was really powerful with magic, but I do think he had been driven crazy by just the constant pain he was in, and the betrayal that he had, and kind of what his role ended up being. But I really feel like it could have been a great story mechanism for her to help heal Storm, and then like he kind of gets on their side, or at least we have some sort of like, I don't know what came of that. Could have been really interesting.
Yeah, he had his like tiny moment of I'm sorry before he died, like a Darth Vader thing. Now talking about magic, I don't know.
Leanne, would we have accepted that with how much he tortured people and murdered people, and we heard all of that?
That's a good
Would
question.
we have accepted him getting a second chance?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's kind of like looking at Morgaine, like, because she, was very much like not wanting, not like really liking the murders that were going on, but not doing much to stop it. And like the
Right.
kind of vein of like, oh well, if I just like bide my time, maybe something will come up and I can like, help out. But it's just like, girl, I mean, how many people have to die before you take action? Like,
I do think there's a way that you can do that with even a character like Storm, who we saw, or at least we didn't see. We heard that he was breaking Rowan apart and putting him back together repeatedly. Like I've seen it done, like in Battlestar Galactica, for example. There was a character who was kind of driven to do some pretty bad things. He had like a leg injury, and you really started to kind of be like, ugh. But then in the end of that story arc, like all of a sudden you have like sympathy for this
Well,
character.
in Battlestar Galactica, they made us feel bad for his end, even though he turned into this terrible monster. And I feel like we could have gotten that with Storm too, and it would have been really interesting.
But Jeff says, as a segue, I never felt that magic was truly important in this world. Not having it would suck, especially for the mages, but it seemed like the world would go on. The stakes never felt very high, except for Rowan and Hutch's continued existence. What do y'all think about that?
I agree. I feel like the world without magic is just our world.
I mean, the way they describe magic as just like being able to have access to small miracles, and that it like seeps in whenever like you need it, you need a small miracle. And so like in that regard, I think, and of course you have like these mages who like, vaguely explain the stone mage and like the tree mage and all that, and they can actually like control the magic and direct it. But like the fact that it just kind of seeps in like to areas where it's just there's a lot of pain and suffering, and it just gives those like miracles there on. It's just like I thought that was a neat idea.
On the right of the sink.
What's happening? Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. I just kind of accepted it. I just kind of accepted that magic was a part of this world, and like what you were saying, Bobby, about the small miracles. I guess I didn't really have much of a concept of what that looked like before. We finally got it at the end, and it seemed like everything was Fantasia.
But it's also not just supposed to be small miracles. It's supposed to be kind of like small chaos a little bit, like small bits of randomness that could be lucky or good, but could also be ropes turning into snakes.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say.
That's a good point, because they did say magic was good, and then you had these ropes that turned into snakes.
Right.
And I was just like,
I'm like,
maybe
I don't think that's good.
snakes.
But then, like the puka, that's the reason it wanted magic back, was because it wanted it to be more interesting. It wanted life to be more chaotic. And so I kind of got the impression like while magic maybe was more good than not, like it also like I think it's closer to 50-50 than we got the impression of. I think that it is a little bit chaotic and random.
Maybe it's like more like the puka, where he was just more kind of like self-serving and he was mischievous. Magic is mischievous, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe there was a snake or a boy who really, really loves snakes out there, and he finds the snakes. And he's like, "This is the greatest thing ever," So
Maybe.
that's
Yeah,
the good part.
they did seem kind of happy about the snakes.
I mean, if you think about what the snakes replaced, which was basically torture, like
I mean,
I would prefer snakes.
Yeah, no.
Not better.
No.
Not-
I think it's better.
I think we're it's kind of a lateral move.
Okay.
Yeah, lateral move. Yes.
It's just like, well, you don't have to go out in the cold and like, harness or like tie the ropes or whatever they were doing out there with the snakes. So I mean, that's one good thing, I guess.
True.
You're
I mean,
like, well,
I-
I'm not going outside again.
I guess I like as far as the magic goes, I would have liked to have more information about that earlier, about like what it means to have more magic in the world, and why is what Rowan is fighting for. And I mean, we get that like Vaughn is hoarding the magic for himself, and oh no, and like we're about to lose all magic. And like Jeff said, like, okay, if you lose magic, then it's like we are, because it was a little close to like our own world. So it's like, okay, you lose magic, and like, I mean, we have a main character who's not magical,
Right.
She has nothing to
And, like, and
lose.
it goes on. Yeah.
I will say that they pretty strongly set this up for a sequel, and I think
Is there one?
there's not. Well, this came out last year,
Ah.
so it's way too soon. But it wouldn't surprise me if we got one. And Biddy is just about to turn the age, or she just turned the age where, like,
17.
yeah, where you actually learn if you have magic or not. So I think I would read a sequel. But okay. If she's magical, she's going to get a familiar. The way I really wanted this book to end, and I'm going to spoil the end, so if you haven't read it,
Spoiler it.
Rowan dies, and then he comes back. And what I wanted was Rowan to die like he did, and then Biddy goes through the crack to, like, give up her magic to save magic, and then Hutchincroft goes to save her. This is what actually happened. Hutchincroft goes to save her, and I really wanted him to become her familiar. And
Hutchincroft?
Hutchincroft, yeah. And then
I thought about that too.
and I wanted Rowan to state it, and that would have been sad because they have such a great relationship. But I thought it could have been great for a sequel, and I felt like it would have been a great ending as well.
I'll say that. Look at Brandy's comment. I feel like it would have been better development had Rowan stayed dead.
Yeah.
Got a little cheap at the end when he just came back.
It did. And they set it up so perfectly, like in every way, for Hutchincroft to become her familiar. And it's like she was the right age and everything. Like, such a missed opportunity.
I do
And
agree
then it's
that
like, even when, like, because they said, like, the familiar dies when your magician dies. So I kind of thought, oh, are we this the way we're going? And then it was just a little
Yeah.
weird, but
Yeah.
I do think that the act of bringing Rowan back felt kind of cheap to me, because it wasn't really established that we could bring people back from the dead.
Hutchincroft did explain it, but
I still don't buy the explanation.
that's
like,
fair.
the way I did it in my head canon is like, okay, so Storm broke his neck. It's like, well, I mean, you can survive from, like,
You
your
can
neck
survive with a
breaking
broken neck.
for
You just be
a while.
paralyzed or something.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, maybe he just didn't get a good enough, like, twitch on it, and, like, he just
I mean, Hutch did just come back from the schism where he
True.
just got charged up like the Energizer Bunny.
Mhm.
And so, and obviously their link was still there because Hutch hadn't died yet. So I'm like, okay, he's supercharged, and I can but yeah.
Yeah, and they had that such a sweet moment when Rowan appeared in her
Yeah, it was
dream.
such a beautiful goodbye.
So yeah, but it wasn't just that he came back. It's that he came back and, like, everything was so great in the end. Like, it went from despair to, like, everything really worked out.
So great, except for Rowan has some serious PTSD.
It's true, he does, but
Yes.
I think that he should.
Oh yeah.
Which is actually believable.
Yeah, I appreciated that he was broken mentally a little bit right now.
But in terms of everything, like, it was like Fantasia with all this stuff, like, sweeping it. It was like,
And then him kissing Morgane at the end, like, just it was very mushy, very much in, like, the cozy. All right, let's get everyone like wrap it up a little bit. Everything's happy, we're good. So
yeah, it was.
Oh man.
I mean, it was cozy with a lot of, like, non-cozy bits. I feel like
That's how
it wasn't. It wasn't cozy in the same way that Legends and Lattes was cozy.
Oh, Legends and Lattes was way too cozy, just about, because I feel like the stakes are just, like, not really there if you can solve them with the cinnamon bun. So, I mean,
it was
this one's more like into the fantasy genre than Legends and Lattes was.
Yeah, and there was a lot of. I felt like this is weird. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but, like, I felt like the author could have used maybe a thesaurus sometimes, because there were sections where, like, the descriptive words were exactly the same for, like, pages. Like, she was in some, I don't remember where she was, but everything was cracked. She was like, maybe it was her room at the orphanage or whatever, but, like, everything was the crack this, the crack this, the crack this, and I was like, okay.
Something that bothered some people over on Discord is the all the mentions of all the books that Biddy read and how well read she was, and just a bunch of title droppings. Like,
I love that droppings. That was my favorite. I was just like, oh yeah, I read that. I read that. So I was just like, I was just happy because, like, I mean, H.D. Parry, she taught English, so I feel like she's just going to insert that like in there somehow. It's just like I did a dissertation on Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre is going in every book I read in some way, shape, or form. So I was just like, yeah, I was like, I really like the name dropping.
Well, then you must have really liked Uriah Heep because
I did, but like it's fun. It's funny because like if we talk about like Uriah Heep again, so I feel like they over explained. Like she went into like great depth and trying to like explain like that magic system as it was, versus this one where it's just like, there's a spirit world. It's closed off. Yep.
Yeah.
No magic.
I didn't mind the title name dropping. I thought it made a lot of sense for her because her whole world outside of the island is only through books. And so
it's like yours.
Yeah. And so it's how she related to the world and how she, like, when she got out there, how she figured it out. And there were some comments in Discord that said that they wish that the author had like lean more into it and shown like how, like what she's like comparing it to.
Yeah, for us uninitiated people who haven't read any of the books.
Yeah,
it was almost to me like the book name drops were world building.
Well, it is set in 1912, so I mean, at least you got like a sense of a timeline because it's like until they specifically told you, hey, it's like 1912.
This must have been like before April, or else they would have been talking about the Titanic.
No, this was winter.
It is winter. It's winter, so this would be after the Titanic, right?
They didn't mention it at all.
They didn't talk about the Titanic.
Maybe they don't know.
Wasn't that 1912?
No, wait, no, this was 1918, maybe. I don't know. No, we're before a war, right? We're before World War I. So yeah, it would be 1912. I'm going to say 1912. If anyone in the comments can help us out with that.
Yeah, what year was this? What year was this?
Okay.
We can write our own version.
Plot twist, they all get onto the Titanic at the end.
Yeah. They're like, we got to travel back to...
Jack lives!
Jack lives, because magic.
Yes. With magic.
They were like, because they were like, we're going to take the train and we got a long journey to go back to High Brazil. But don't worry, there's a ship that's going from London to New York or whatever. It's like, it's this big unsinkable ship. I can't wait.
Oh, interesting, Dan. Dan says, so this takes place the same time as the first episode of Downton Abbey.
Okay.
Because they talked about the Titanic and that show did.
Eventually, yeah.
They had more important things to worry about. That was just...
yeah, everybody's confirming that it's 1912. And
1912.
If this is post-April, they should have been talking about the Titanic.
Like they could have like name dropped it as like a reference to like maybe if magic existed and we had these miracles, like the Titanic wouldn't have sunk or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like more people would have been saved from the water.
This is interesting. Apparently, High Brazil is a thing in other literature.
Oh, interesting.
Like in the same way, like an island that's only seen every 7 years. I want to know way more about this.
I feel like that'd be like Irish folklore.
Maybe a fae legend.
If it is, that is super impressive to me that she incorporated that.
Yeah, if it is, then I have more respect for it because I was thinking, what a silly name.
Yeah, I know.
What a silly name, High Brazil.
So is in the book, is it like in the audiobook, is it High Brazil? Because I was calling it High Basil like the whole time.
I'm calling it Brazil like it has a Z in it. I don't know.
In the audiobook, it's High Brazil.
Really? Okay.
Well, isn't that how you spell Brazil? Does Brazil have a Z in it or an S?
Is it Brazil or Brazil?
I don't know. Gosh, I'm showing my ignorance. High Brazil.
High Brazil.
Maybe it's like we're not like we got to put them together like High Brazil.
Jeff says there's a Wikipedia article about it, so we're gonna have to read that after this.
I got confused about that too. I was like, how did she read North and South? Exactly the same.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
like the North and South. There is a wonderful television show with North and South, and it stars the guy from The Hobbit, and it's one of those like classic English literatures about like a girl from the North, or
Oh,
from the South moving to the North to like because her father's like in the factory area now. So yeah,
There's a song called Hi Brazil.
Hmm.
Now, Hi Brazil, I guess we're going to have to read the Wikipedia article because
Here we go. Here we go. Kira's on it.
say what? Also known as Hi Brazil, there's a Phantom Island to the line in the Atlantic Ocean west of Ireland. Okay,
How
okay.
cool. I love that.
okay,
Um,
that's awesome.
But
Yeah.
so like I'm guessing that like whenever the puka gave her that vision of the past people, that's part of some like whole thing, right?
Mhm.
Not just
Probably
made
in
up for
the
this story.
actual
Ooh, maybe.
Legend of the Island. That's cool.
Um,
Mhm.
the Celtic mythology, Celtic, like the Boston basketball team.
So-
I'm just there have been real historical expeditions to find the island.
Huh.
That's
Oh,
you know
so look at
Oh,
Jennifer's.
wow.
There's 7 black rabbits in the song.
oh,
That is
okay.
awesome. Okay, this is actually the coolest thing about the book so far.
It's really neat.
I'm like, ooh, let's research this.
this book is mentioned in the Wikipedia entry. Well, way to keep that one kind of under the vest.
Yeah,
All of a sudden,
HG.
we're like, ooh, this is cool.
it's just probably we're Americans, so it's just like never heard of Irish folklore.
Never heard of it.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I don't know if it was just me, but every time that Hutch turned human, my brain always pictured him almost like Aziraphale.
Hmm.
He just
Some
had
good
that
omens.
that khaki blondish because he was a golden rabbit. So
Mm.
I just pictured him blonde, and like little tweed vest and and everything. I just always every time he's human, I'm like, oh, Aziraphale.
I can see that. Yeah.
Every time I thought of him, I was just like, for whatever reason, even though he would totally pass for a human, I just imagined him would always have rabbit ears, just because, like, in my head canon, that would be way more cute.
The human with rabbit ears.
Yeah, the human with the rabbit.
So Kira's given us a whole bunch of information about High Brazil lore. Although it was never found, Brazil Island continued to appear on maps until 1873, was shown for the last time on the old BAC.
Cool.
I'm really surprised they didn't just go to a random island and just be like, yeah, this is High Brazil, sure. That's like,
So-
fair enough.
Tim said that Puka has a wiki page and is part of Celtic lore.
Gosh, you really buried the lead here, HG.
I thought the Puka was probably like an established
No,
thing, but I love knowing that, and I'd love to know more about them also.
I mean, I knew that puka were a type of Fey changeling,
Okay.
but I know that from gaming.
There you go.
from playing Vampire and World of Darkness for years. So that's how I knew that. And I
Yes.
played a puka at one time.
Nice.
So
We get a lot of Irish folklore sprinkled into this island, which I guess they found, and it is apparently of the island's doing, right? That nobody else can find it. Like it's the
Mhm.
island that does it,
Yeah.
not Rowan.
Correct.
Okay, because there was a time where I thought that Rowan had put some sort of
Really? Because they
cloaking
mentioned
device.
he first saw it when he was a kid, like off the coast. And so then he was like, he poured over it with Vaughn trying to figure out how to find it. So like there was a
Yeah, but that was
whole, it
later.
was
Like every
established.
7 years, yeah, it would be
yeah.
visible.
And Vaughn is bringing that up, and he's like, "Didn't you teach math?" And my brain had already thought of that early in the book when they're like, "Every 7 years it's visible." I'm like, "Well, every 7 years you're in danger."
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
brain had already thought of that. I'm like, there.
I guess you could still get to it if it's invisible.
I think if you know where it is, maybe.
Well, it's like when they sent out the wisp. I don't know if the wisp just like didn't see the island. They just saw like people floating in like the air or something.
No, I think they were attracted to the magic in her heart.
I don't
Okay.
think they necessarily saw anything.
Maybe they didn't. Yeah, maybe they don't see because like they're not like living, I guess. But
We
yeah.
got a large comment here. Put it on the screen. Sorry, Leanne, that's going to cover up most of you. My great grandmother was a magic weaver, came across the water, caught the fever. Wondered what if her mother's here.
Oh,
Are these lyrics? Are these lyrics to the song? I thought you were telling a story about your great grandmother. I was like, great grandmother was a magic weaver. I was like, okay, I want to know more about this, Grandma.
Yeah, there's the 7 black rabbits of High Brazil.
Ah, fascinating. So this is a whole thing. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And now I wish we'd spent more time on High Brazil instead of going to White Castle and wherever everything else was. Right.
Yeah.
It's like when they were talking about the island, they were discussing like how the trees still had magic in them, and like the black rabbits in particular, and how there was this fortress there, or at least 2 fortresses, and maybe like a tower or something, and how they had basically fallen into decay over the years. So like that aspect in itself is interesting, but they themselves are like, we know like these people may have built it, but why they left the world or where they're at now, it's like that's still mystery. So it's like very, it's vagueness. Like,
Yeah. Well, didn't the people leave because they like sacrificed themselves to bring magic back?
no, I feel like they just. I know one person like sacrificed the magic to bring the rest of the magic back to the world, but the people, I guess, they had a war at some point with the mainlanders, and
Okay, yeah.
they lost, and it wasn't like I wasn't quite clear if they were a part of our world or if they were like a part of the spirit world and they just came over. And I mean, they may have said that in the book somewhere, and then they just went back to the spirit world, but that was, I mean, it kind of glossed over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have mages and their familiars, and that's been going on for a long time. And now magic is dying because they sucked it all up.
Mhm.
I guess it leads us to Vaughn.
I did think it was really interesting, like how many gray areas there were with like the council and Vaughn and Morgaine and Rowan, and just like the history there. Like they supported Vaughn so that they could get on the council, and then like all hell broke loose, basically.
Yeah. Now, that's like, I guess we could talk about Vaughn a little bit because, like, we said, he was a mustache twirly villain
With a magic eye.
with a magic eye.
But that was overly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Was that like, could that eye like only sense like emotions, or like
It was like your deepest fears and wants and needs, and like I guess anything that you're thinking that's like on the surface is kind of the impression I got.
Yeah, it was like he could see it. Basically, is kind of a lie detector, and like because he knows what you're feeling. Really, I don't know, but
I think his end game, Jeff, I think it was just to have all the magic for himself
Yeah.
and to be the only one with it.
Yeah,
just to hold power for as long as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what he was gonna do with it. I didn't really see any like, it's not like a James Bond villain where they're like, now I can finally control the world and do, like
He just wanted it. He wanted it all.
He wasn't going to heal Storm with it. That was for sure.
Yeah,
I
no
mean,
way. It was really frustrating to me that like the problem with magic like dying was a completely manufactured thing by someone who really, really wanted a lot of magic. Like, I don't know. It
was a little contradictory.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like scarcity creating demand.
True.
And he was like doling it out. He was like giving the mages an allowance, the council mages an allowance of magic.
He wanted to have all of it so people would do what he.
But I never really got the sense that anybody was lacking magic. Did you? Like, I never really got the sense that like Morgaine was like.
They talked about how if you wanted to use it for research, you had to like get it approved and stuff. So I felt like there were really strict rules about how magic was to be used.
But it seemed to me like maybe they just weren't explaining it a lot. But like they've used magic whenever they want. Every once in a while you hear like, well, we're going to use up all our. But like it didn't really seem like. It seemed like they could still do things.
To me, it kind of seemed like filling up your car with gas. That well, I can go to the store 20 times or I can go to Florida.
Mhm.
So I
It's
think it really depended on what you were going to do with what you had.
it's like they could like yeah, you could do small things like use mage light and like use it to like cook some things or like start a fire. But like the big stuff was cut off from them because they had these rune doors that you could like travel to,
Yeah.
but they
Mhm.
couldn't access that anymore because they didn't have enough magic to power it and there just,
Right.
wasn't enough. And I thought it was interesting that like magic is something that the mages had to like keep with them, and once they used it up it was gone and there wasn't like anywhere that they could draw that from again. So I thought that was a bit interesting that it's not like magic usually comes from like themselves, like a lot of like magic systems, but this one is like because it's an outside source it is like finite and
And
you
does
could use it up.
does the Ravenstone use magic, or it just is already?
It just is
It just
already.
is,
So
yeah.
that's
It
not
was
like
it
That-
used a lot of magic in the creation of it.
Yeah.
But once it was like the other artifacts, once they're created to do the one thing, they can do the one thing.
the knife that turns butter into jam.
That's why Biddy was
Exactly.
able to use all those things without magic.
Yes.
Ah, got it. Emily says Storm also almost made more of a threatening villain. Storm was a better villain just because Storm had
Motivation.
motivation.
Wasn't
Storm had
one-dimensional.
it wasn't one dimensional.
Yeah.
And
It's like he's in great amount of pain, which is why he is doing what he is doing, and he is like a half bird man person.
yeah,
So
I didn't find Vaughn threatening at all.
Also, if you thought Storm was threatening, you should think Vaughn was threatening because Vaughn was absolutely Storm's puppet master.
But we didn't really see much. I mean, it was just sort of Storm. It was actually through Rowan and Morgane's explanation of like Storm's been sucking up to Vaughn so that maybe he can. And then Storm was like, I did this so that he would turn me back into a human again. But it was like, I don't know. Storm he was unpredictable. He was Vaughn.
A little bit insane.
A little bit insane, a little bit rational at the same time. Like Storm was just was more nuanced. Vaughn, there was only one time where like I think Biddy was using the scrying glass to spy on people, and she was like, "I only spied on Vaughn once," and he looked right at me, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the duality of Storm, the part of him that was human and then the part of him that was a feral animal, made him actually probably the most developed character in the whole book.
I think you're right.
he did have a lot of character nuances." But I guess it's like a James Bond movie. Not to bring up James Bond again, where a lot of times the henchman is the more powerful villain, the more threatening villain. There's a lot of times where like the biggest last fight in the James Bond movie is the henchman fight, not
Or more interesting, at least.
Yeah, the more interesting one. Odd Job.
Jaws.
Jaws.
Dave Bautista, Inspector.
The hat guy, or was it
The
a
hat
shoe?
guy.
Yeah, hat guy. It was a shoe in Austin Powers.
Yeah, random task. So yeah, like I don't know, Vaughn was just kind of like, he was just like, meh. Like when he shows up at the end and he's like, yes, you led me exactly to where I wanted you to be, and I'm the one that set the trap. And now I'm gonna get you all.
It's like I've known this was here for like 6 years. I mean, it took me 6 years to find it, but I did find it. So
Yeah, Darth Vader was a henchman.
Good point.
yeah, true.
um,
He was not the final boss in that movie.
I also feel like Morgane was an interesting character because she she really wanted to help. We didn't really know which side she was on for a really long time. Neither did they. She really wanted to help, but in like the most cowardly way for the most part.
Yeah.
Like the whole book, the most part, she's like, it's like he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. It's like was her whole mentality. Also
Morgane was
Bowser's from the Mario cartoon.
relatable that way because that's probably what most of us would do.
Oh, me for sure.
Most of us would try to work within the system, would, try to, oh, I'm going to help a little bit. I'm going to, donate to this charity, or I'm going to, help with, a soup kitchen or something, but I'm not going to be the person that is out on the streets protesting and, things like Rowan is doing. He's like, hey, we're going to make the change. But most of us live in a world where we're like, oh, we have bills. Or like she was saying that because she was a woman and she didn't have any societal power at all. And this was her only way to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, when Morgan came in, I really appreciated that, the like Morgan and Biddy bonding over being women in the time. And I think Jennifer makes the point, she's a person of her time. And that's where a lot, like, I appreciated the social commentary coming in, because I feel like there was still a lot of relevancy for today too. So like, I enjoyed Morgan and Biddy's relationship for that reason.
The only issue I had, like, with Morgaine, I do think she's a good and pretty well fleshed out character, but considering like the limited security of the Undercroft, it was like, why didn't you just take all the magic like for yourself?
yeah.
I was just like, it seemed pretty easy to get in the magic vault and just take it. So why don't you just take it and enact your plan?
Yeah, getting into the vault. What was the deal with that? I was very confused
Like, you had to
about.
be like a raven and get in, but like, or like, something small. So maybe like it's just she didn't have the right tools at the time. But
That's what I think
mean,
it was.
Well, I think what it was she didn't know the rune that unlocked the vault.
oh, okay.
And because Rowan had already broken in and that was his secret place to break in, when Biddy got in there, she went and she erased the design on the door, which essentially she just unlocked it.
But it's like they
So
knew
because you
Ronan
had to
breaking
know
in, too.
the rune from the outside, you had to know it and draw it exactly as the key to get into the door. So she didn't know it.
But as a raven, you can just slip in.
You can slip in and slip out in the Raven form, and they knew like he was breaking in. So it's just like, why didn't they like search all over there, like for like some sort of like clue to how he's getting in, if they know he's stealing from the the vault?
But did they know he was stealing from the vault? Because like Morgaine she took all of the magic when she was there, but he never did that. Or at least I got the impression that he never did that. So I think maybe he was just like slowly siphoning it off.
Yeah, he stole from the vault like they stole from money, like in Office Space, where there was like, we're just going to put an extra decimal point here, and then it's going to get into our accounts.
Oh, and you mentioned, can he just get in there as a raven? Remember that the circle doesn't work on the raven.
The trap circle?
The trap circle.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she found that out at the end.
But she already knew that.
Maybe he was more interested in stealing artifacts, because they did mention like the artifacts that he would have, and like the one that like got him into that like trap was a like locket or something. So.
I think kind of the wild magic, once it was released, I kind of see it as normal people can't feel it, except, oh, something lucky happened, or there was a small miracle. To me, the wild magic is hope. And with the magic going out of the world, there was no hope for the normal people. And I think that's part of what the magic is for, is to keep hope alive in the world.
Yeah, I can see that.
Brandy. Rune lock seems stupid. A regular lock would work 100. A master lock. Put a master lock on that thing.
You can open a master lock with another master lock if you like smash them into each other.
One of the things, when she was like deposited at the orphanage, I was really annoyed that like the orphanage was even part of the story. And then the fact that they had like the infant room broke my heart. But I loved that the author made it like really important, like the orphanage really important. Like I was worried it wasn't going to have any meaning. And first it came back with the meaning of like that's where he found her. And then like they went back like a second time, and it's more than just where she came from. It's also like the location of the rift. And I really appreciated the author making those connections and not just having it as like just some sad weird part that didn't make any sense.
It was a sad, weird part for a long time.
It was.
And like also like Rowan being like, I'm not going to tell you what we're doing, but it's going to be terrible. Goodbye. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I think you could really experience Biddy's
Betrayal.
just everything she was going through. Like I'm just trying to think of like one word to sum it up, but like the betrayal, the discomfort, the like, the like sense of being alone and isolated. Like that, the writing I felt was actually pretty strong from Biddy's perspective to describing how she felt emotionally along the way. And I think that's what it helped me relate to her throughout the story. And it helped make Biddy's journey a believable one for me, is because like you could really feel and experience what she was going through.
I also appreciated at the end when she learned that like she was one of the infants in the infant room, and like there was nothing special about her except that she cried, and then just the enormous guilt she felt at getting this like life windfall when all of these other people didn't. I thought that was really powerful, and I really appreciated that.
Then we had that follow up with Anna at the end where she's like, look, I'm better and I'm going to go be a governess.
Yeah.
And the school's doing a lot better now that it's under new management.
They eat cake now.
Yeah. It's like, wrap it up.
I did love her telling Vaughn, like, you had the power, like you took over the orphanage and you had the power to make all of these people's lives a little bit better, and you didn't even bother. And like, I love her calling him out for that.
Yeah. And I hated you then.
Yeah. And so did we. We all hate him. He's awful.
He's just
What's his like reasoning for that, do you think? Because like, well, if this place just gets even a little bit happier, like that gap is going to close, like the crack will close.
He just didn't care.
And I'm like, it's still an orphanage.
It didn't affect him at all.
Yeah.
Vaughn was only about Vaughn.
Yeah.
And Jeff, the thing that you mentioned about there should have been an alarm on the vault. Vaughn was, I think, the only one that knew the lock, and his own hubris would have. Nobody could get in here but me.
Well, and he truly believed that, because if Storm found out how much magic was in the vault, like,
right, so nobody else was in there.
Yeah.
And Morgaine, so nobody else went in there. He handed it out. He doled it out to people.
I agree.
So nobody, and because Morgaine was like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. And so none of the other mages had gone in there. So he was the only one coming and going. So,
and think of how much he had to take for himself if he's creating these wisps, which are like incredibly difficult for
Wisps
them.
are terrifying, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, do you have to find I guess you have to find the bones to like,
but like if
do that too. Ugh.
I feel like Vaughn with the like, oh, he's like the necromancer mage, the guy who makes things out of dead things, is like, you're destined to be the bad guy. It's like if you're in Slytherin and Harry Potter, it's like, okay, you're one of the bad guys.
I like that we got glimpses of like how the magic worked, though, like with the bone affinity and stone affinity and tree affinity, and like I if there is a second book, I do feel like they're going to flesh out the magic system a little more, and I'm excited about it based on what we've already seen.
You hear that, HG? We got expectations.
Are all bone affinity mages evil?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay, well, look at that. We made it to the hour mark. I feel like we could still talk about this. We could still go on this book. Interestingly enough, because there's so many different opinions, so many varied opinions, and who was it that said Bethany? They wanted to write you want to write a paper about this book? You should. So I guess we can. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah,
Should we wrap it up. Final thoughts after this discussion. Did we change your mind at all about anything?
I was all like, on the fence. I had a mixed experience with this book, but I think this discussion has made me appreciate the book so much more and made me excited about there possibly being a sequel.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, for me, I mean, it definitely gives me a lot to think, especially knowing the legend of High Brazil and sort of the possibilities of storytelling here. I mean, the way that it ended was so like nice, neat bow that like I was like, I could be done with this, but like if there are other stories to be told in this, I don't know what Biddy's story is moving on from here. Even if she does become a mage, I mean, there's magic in the world, and everything seems to be going okay for the most part. But
Mhm.
so yeah, I don't, like you say, it's set up for a second book, and like for me, I guess it seemed like it wrapped up okay, and like I could be fine with that. I would be interested to see what comes from a second book, but I think that for all the issues that I have with this book, it's a really fun book to talk about.
Mhm.
What about y'all?
Oh, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was like great. There is some nitpicky parts in it that, we could go on and on about, but I think overall it was a great book. I think if there's a sequel, I don't know if it would be like a continuation of Biddy's story or if we would like, jump into the future and see how that plays out there. That would be like interesting to see. Like,
Oh
but I
yeah,
don't know if we need the
I'd
same
love to see
characters.
this magic system in a world with the iPhone.
Yeah, but, like, what is this gonna look like? Like, what did we stop World War One essentially by releasing magic?
You know,
Or.
that's a great point. But also, if Biddy does become a magician, they could still do a time jump and have her as the main character because magicians
Live
last really
forever.
long.
They're long lived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's also kind of like if you think about it, if she's not a magician, how sad is that going to be when like Ronan and them move on and like we get a future scene where he's like holding Biddy's hand and it's like
Oh.
interstellar and we're just like,
Oh.
On that deathbed scene, you're like, oh my god, no.
Marv.
So I
No,
mean,
you
I'm
were in.
interested to see where
Overall, I
she goes.
liked it. It was a very cozy read. It was nice and lighthearted, even though there was torture and stuff. But then I am the Dark Book Club person. So, yes, the torture was lighthearted for me. But
Too happy.
I am really excited to fall into a wiki hole searching for High Brazil, though.
Yeah, Kira's already got us started on that. So thanks for that. And we would never have known had y'all not been here in the comment section to educate us. Well, cool. So that about does it for this live discussion of this book that The Magician's Daughter. But you can continue the discussion on Discord at the Literally Wasted Lounge, or just call somebody up, talk, exchange phone numbers. Old school, yeah. Send a wire.
Really old school.
Telegram.
But yeah, we can keep the conversation going. There's a lot of mixed opinions. A lot of people talking about it in Discord, and the next book we have is T.J. Klune's In the Lives of Puppets.
My copy came in today.
Oh, this is for June. For some reason, I thought it was Starter Villain, but that's not till
That's not yet. So Wednesday, June 12th, we're going to have a club meeting. No
June 12th.
reading required.
Day after my birthday, just saying.
Ha. And then Wednesday, June 26th, we'll be talking about.
Wait, let me say that again.
It starts on Monday. That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, your calendar's weird. June 12th. And then the next one. So club meeting June 12th, book discussion the next.
Ooh, and Emily Zotman says that the audiobook is amazing for this one. I believe it.
Send
Okay.
a crow.
So TJ Klune, if you're not aware, we read one of his books already, and it was The House in the Cerulean Sea, which was a big hit with the book club. That was a cozy book, if you can
really
call it a
was.
cozy book. So what a cozy book that was.
If you can have a cozy book featuring the Antichrist, I mean,
Yeah.
but it's The House in the Cerulean Sea was such an amazing book. It was the only book that we have read in all of these years that everybody was like, I love this book. This book is so good.
Yeah, it was a massive gush fest over that book. So we'll see if he can maintain his streak within the lives of puppets. We'll see. We'll read that for June, which also is the 5-year anniversary of Literarily Wasted. We're very excited to have been doing this for this long, and so excited to have everybody here and to have new guest hosts like Leanne and Bobby with us. I don't know exactly what we're doing, if we're gonna in what way we're gonna celebrate the 5. We'll have to figure something out. But we have nothing figured out at the moment, which is kind of a ball drop on our part, seeing as how we've known this was going to happen since we started. But 5 years. Happy 5 years in June for Literarily Wasted. The best is yet to come, hopefully. And we already know what our book is for June and July. So
I love my lit fam. I'm so glad that y'all started this club.
We are too. We do it for y'all. So it's just we're happy to have found this wonderful group of people that we can talk about fun books with. So big thank you to Leanne and Bobby for joining us today, especially last minute. We just put the call out this morning. So thank y'all so much for being here. Y'all are awesome. It was really fun talking about the book with y'all and with everybody in the comments. And maybe we'll see if y'all are available for the next one too. So anyway, thank y'all so much for being here, and we'll see you soon in June. I rhymed.
You did. You're a poet. Did you know it?
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya later.
Bye.